You are tuned into Plática de Práctica in the classroom. On these episodes, we travel across Albuquerque to visit teachers in the creative spaces that they find themselves in. They will continue to share their tips and tricks, triumphs and struggles as they navigate the contemporary creative classroom. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Plática de Práctica in the classroom. We're on the road again, and we find ourselves at La Cueva again. This time, ironically, it's not with a visual arts teacher, even though my background's in visual arts, and it seems that I've been getting a lot of visual arts people. So I'll let our guest introduce himself, and we'll get going. So welcome.
Well, good morning, Renee. My name is Gabriel Velasco, and I'm the director of bands here at La Cueva High School. My job entails working and running the Big Bad Bear Marching Band. I also teach the wind ensemble and co-teach the symphonic band. And then I am in charge of both of our jazz bands, Jazz 1 and Jazz 2. In addition, I oversee the band boosters, which also includes the La Cueva Winter Guard. But I know my assistant director, Edwin Parker, runs most of the Winter Guard stuff. I'm just kind of logistical stuff in the background. So.
Okay, cool. And congratulations are in order. You guys just finished state, and you guys got second. Is that correct?
We did. We finished state. It was on April 17th, just over a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we did come in second, and probably the tightest margin I've seen. Okay. We scored a 94.867. And the winning band was a 94.9. So that's a .033 separation. It was just so close.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, again, coming from the visual arts side, like, oftentimes we are, like, even though we're in the same buildings and stuff with you guys, like, we have no idea how any of that works. And so that is, but being a sports guy, I assume that, I mean, that sounds insane.
It's all rubrics and it's all details. So like the rubric that they used has 5 categories worth 20 points, and there's the pitch category, the musicality, time, style, and it was a 1/10 of a point here and there. Like, all 3 judges really liked us, and it all just came down to details. And that's the conversation I had with my group, was like, we had one measure that was uncomfortable and they called us on it. We had a pitch error in like one part and they called us on it. It's just all of these little details, which I think is the same in visual art. Like,
yeah, there's some aspect of subjectivity to it, right? Depending on the judge, or
there is. I always find it interesting with judges when they contradict each other, because the format is that there's 3 judges and then they average the scores together to get the final score. But we get tapes from the 3 judges, and so I can go back and listen to our performance with somebody talking over it, and there are parts where, like, oh yeah, like, this is really good, we're very strong intonation here, and at the same moment a different judge is going, hey, watch your intonation in this part. So it's like there's always that personal subjectivity to it, which that's just the nature of art. Like, everybody likes different things. So,
and I think there's also, like, to a degree, I think some pressure on you here, because there's this expectation. I think that La Cueva has always been solid in pretty much everything. So I think there's some of that too. That
very much. It's very self-inflicted with the school, and that we're the students and the families and the community expects us to be in the conversation and everything. Like, we don't always have to win, but we should be part of the mix, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's like that across the board, regardless of the activity. I know, to keep in line with state, like, we're the only Albuquerque marching band to make finals at the state marching competition in here, and like, we hold that with pride. And
was that this year, or?
Yeah, they've held it for the past 2 years. It's in October. It's always in Rio Rancho.
Okay.
But the top 5 bands for the past 2 years, and no particular order, has been Rio Rancho and Sioux Cleveland, Oregon Mountain from Las Cruces, Clovis, and us. Okay. And because they only take 6 bands into their finals from our division, and it's really cool to be like the one Albuquerque school. It's like, no, we compete with those other ones, and like, let's go. Let's go get it.
I didn't realize Organ Mountain was that competitive. I grew up south of Las Cruces, but then also like we'd compete against some of those schools, and that's interesting. Like,
yeah, I think Organ Mountain is probably the most competitive out of Las Cruces. The other schools are all really good. I know, speaking of the state marching contest, Centennial was the 6th place finisher this year, and so it's the new school down there. And then Organ Mountain placed 3rd at the state concert band contest. When we took 2nd, they were at like a 94.1. So it's like still within a full point of us and Sioux Cleveland. But the really cool thing is also, like, one thing I love about band is that although it's competitive, we're not always, it's not the end all be all. Like last Friday, we went to Organ Mountain with the 2 jazz bands, and it was for the Organ Mountain Jazz Festival, and it was an adjudicated festival, but it wasn't a competition. So judges listened to us, and they came up on stage and gave a quick clinic and talked to us about what they heard, what they did, or about how the kids played, and the students loved it. Jazz 2 played really, really well, and the judges were all complimentary, and one of them got really excited because we played his arrangement. Big name in the jazz world is Mike Camiff, and we played an arrangement of Stolen Moments that he wrote. And then Jazz 1 played extremely well, and I think my highlight of that day was in the warm-up room at Organ Mountain. It was their orchestra room, I believe. It might have been their choir room. But once they started playing, like we had a gathering of about 20 Organ Mountain students that walked into the room just to hear our warm up.
Oh, wow.
And like, I think that's an interesting thing with La Cueva is that like our kids want to perform. And so when you put them in front of an audience, you get a different level of student than you normally see on the day to day. So it's something that I'm like trying to like, hey, like we need more of that when there's not an audience. But when you put them in front of an audience, they turn it on, and it's just, it starts clicking. And that carried over to the stage, and all the judges were just like, wow. One of the pieces they played was Rhapsody in Blue. It's the George Gershwin piano concerto for orchestra. And then
I'm nodding my head like I know.
Like you know,
I probably heard it.
If you were to hear it, you would recognize it instantly. But there's a jazz arrangement that Gordon Goodwin did, and I originally handed it out to Jazz 1 in September, and I was like, hey, let's plan this for second semester, start looking at it. And they struggled with it back then, and we put it together in March and April, and they did it without a conductor, because it's typical for jazz bands, like you don't conduct much. With the Jazz 1 here, and my predecessor started this, Mr. Converse, of you don't conduct a jazz band, especially that band. And so the couple rehearsals before we get something, it's always go through the pieces and make sure that I'm not needed. Like, I don't start them, I don't stop them, I don't handle any of the transitions. My job is essentially, I'm the sound guy. I move mics, make sure that they're in the correct place. I walk out into the hall, and I make sure that the balance is good with the rhythm section. Bass, is it turned up enough? Is it turned up too loud? Guitar, piano, and all that good stuff. But otherwise, I just kind of stand off to the side and let them do their thing. And it's a really rewarding thing when our art has reached a point where I can hand it over to the students. Because as a teacher, I think that's one of my biggest motivating factors is I want these students to be able to continue this past high school. I want them to continue to play their instruments and do it at a high level when I'm not there, because I only get them for 4 years, and they're hopefully going to play for the next 40 years. So
yeah, as you're talking, I can't help but think of like competition and like almost like at the equivalent of like a sports competition, right? Where there's this level of like a demand and a work that you have to put in, and I think oftentimes the arts are seen as kind of secondary, where these kids are practicing before school starts, they're traveling, they're like, and oftentimes again like the arts go seen as like, there's a sports event going on. Let's focus on that, or get the sports get more attention, I guess. So, but I don't know the point I'm trying to make, but it's like, it's just interesting as you're talking, and I'm thinking about the amount of time, the amount of practice, the amount of like effort and stress even that goes into some of these kids' day, where like you say, they're turning these switches on when the lights are on. They're on, and it takes a lot of work to get there.
It does. I mean, just our classroom time in general, I have the full band for a 0 first period block every day. So we're in concert season now, so we start our day, expectation is that they're in their seats warming up at 7:40, and then classroom instruction starts at 7:45. That first 5 minutes is designed for like individual warm-up, make sure your instrument's running, make sure you have everything you need for rehearsal, grab your mutes, oil your valves, and then play some long tones and get yourself like mentally ready. And then we rehearse until 9:20, and we do that Monday through Friday. During marching season, it's even more. They come in at 7:30, and we start on the field at 7:30. We do about half an hour of physical warm-up, marching warm-up, music warm-up. Then we hit the football field, and we rehearse until about 9:10. We ended a little bit earlier just because we rehearse on the soccer field, football field at La Cueva, and so I have to give the kids time to like come up and change, put on a fresh pair of shoes, some deodorant, and like make themselves ready for the rest of the day. And then they are here a couple days after school every week. They do an after-school sectional 1 day a week. We have a 5 to 8 p.m. rehearsal every Tuesday night during marching season, where they come in and they practice, and then we do one Saturday a month, where that Saturday is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we're here all day just perfecting the show. And you talk about competition, and I think there is a competitive aspect of it. Kind of what we teach here is we can't control what other schools do. We can respect it, because we know that, you know what, Organ Mountain and Clovis and Visu Cleveland and Rio Rancho and El Dorado and Highland and Volcano are all out there practicing in the hot sun, doing the same thing we're doing. But really the competition I talk about with my kids is like, can you be a better version of you tomorrow? Can you take where you ended yesterday and push it to another level? Can you do that again the next day? And so on and so forth. And when you stack enough of those individual wins on top of each other, you're going to get to where you're going to get. And it's always about like checking those negative things at the door. Like, I get it. You have a math test that you're stressed out about. Maybe your relationship isn't going the way you want it to. Maybe you've got issues at home where you got into a fight with mom and dad. Like, I really want the band room to be a safe place where like they can come, check it, and then do what we need to do and kind of like reset themselves. And so like, we're a competitive activity, but we're not so competitive that we don't forget the why, which for me, the why has always been the individuals. Like, I enjoy getting to know my students. I enjoy getting to know who they are and what they like outside of band, because they're not just band kids, and I'm not just a band director. And so like, I let them see that side of me as well. We're like, wait, Mr. V plays video games? It's like, yeah. Like, what are you playing right now? And then I'll go in and I'll tell them what I'm playing. And or getting to know them of like, we had one student who at Organ Mountain had a track meet the next day. And so he asked me at one point, he's like, Mr. V, can I go for a run? It's like, of course you can go for a run. How long are you going to be? Where are you going to go? Is your phone on you? If something happens, who are you going to call? And just having a plan in place to make sure that like, that student's taken care of. And then I followed up on the Monday. It's like, hey, how'd your track meet go? It's like, I didn't qualify for state yet. I'm close. I got one more race this weekend. And I think like, that is the biggest part about teaching, is realizing like, they're not just numbers. They're not just a head in a classroom. It's an individual. It's a person that is coming to you to get better at whatever topic you teach. And it's our jobs to take them where they're at and get them to where we expect them to be. And they'll surprise you. And if you hold high standards and if you hold accountability, then I've seen students own up to it. And it's a really fun thing just to be a part of.
Yeah. I want to flip it a little bit, because as you're talking, I think I'm like impressed with you, because of the demands, right? And part of this podcast was really to kind of open up the doors for audiences to understand the demands of teaching. And I think as you're talking about your schedule and every time you guys are practicing, and on top of that, like just being a normal human with these kids, like and building those relationships, like I commend you, because I think, again, like unless you know, I mean, those that don't know, they can't know. Like,
yeah.
And I think oftentimes we have this like fog, and we forget once we've left high school or grade school, right, and go to college or whatever people end up doing, we forget what those years were like, and the demand, right, that comes with all our priorities. We were talking before we started recording about all the things that we are, right? You're a dad, and you have a new baby now, and congrats on that again.
Thank you.
And so there's all these other aspects to us as people as well that I think get overlooked at times by the masses or whatever, right? The system, whatever. But again, like as you're talking, I'm just like, yeah, like you're here early, you're here late, you're here come wind, rain, or snow. Like it's just like
it took some getting used to. So I've been doing this job, I think this is my 13th or 14th year teaching high school band. I started off at a school out in California because I ended up out there, and it was interesting because I started as just a brass guy. The directors hired me on his staff, and I remember that the directors were a married couple. The wife was pregnant, and so she took maternity leave. He stepped up and he offered me the assistant job, which I took for 3 years, and then he left and I ended up as the head director. And I remember that job taught me to not let this job take over my life. I taught, that was 3 concert bands, 3 concert bands, 3 orchestras, 3 jazz bands, marching band, winter guard, winter drumline, and I was the only director. Now, the staff and the boosters the staff that the boosters allowed me to hire was monumental in making sure that I didn't go insane. But I was at that school from 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. 6 days a week. And it cost me a relationship. It cost me some of my own sanity, I felt at times, to the point where I was only the head director for 2 years. And I went, this is not sustainable for me. And I came back to Albuquerque, ended up getting a job at Cibola. And it was during COVID. And this is when I met my wife. And it was funny. She still's like, you lied to me. I didn't know what being a high school band director meant. And then when we first started like dating, it was COVID. And she very much was not ready for my schedule. And I've had to do things to protect my personal time, because like I'm here all day tomorrow. We have a fundraiser tomorrow. It's our spring craft fair that we do every year, but it means that I'm pulling up to La Cueva at 5:30 tomorrow morning. The vendors start showing up at 6. Actually, the vendors start showing up at like 5:15, and I don't let them in till 6, and it's unique craziness. But it forces me to be a couple of things. One, I have to be extremely organized with my time and communication with my families, which I can admittedly get better at. I know this week we had a jazz performance last night at a Star Brothers Brewing that, in my new dad life, because I have a 2-week-old, I never sent out communication for it. So I sent out an email yesterday going like, I know you don't want to cook tonight. Come out and listen to some jazz bands. And so I have to be on top of it, like, and plan out my year, plan out making sure that I know what we're doing. And then I have to, I compartmentalize my life. Like, I don't work at home. I don't like working at home. And I do that so that when I'm with my wife, when I'm with my stepson, when I'm with my newborn daughter, I am with them. I'm not thinking about things. And it's hard because I'm always coordinating staff. I know me and my assistant director and one of the teachers here on campus who also co-teaches band with us, Eli Friedman, like the 3 of us text each other more than I text my wife. And she's so used to me sending voice memos. She's so used to listening to them because we're just coordinating and trying to figure out what's going on the next day or the next week or the next year. And then I get the privilege of working with an amazing booster organization. And I know we're one of the larger ones in the district where parent volunteers come in, they create a board, and their whole mission is nothing more than to support the band program and to support my vision for the band program. And so they take over a lot of the fundraising responsibilities. Like, really, tomorrow, I don't do much. I show up, I unlock the doors, and then I tell the boosters, like, you guys run everything. I'm the person that gets yelled at. If you have an upset vendor, if you got somebody who's just not happy, send them to me, and I will handle that so that you're not having to deal with that. And it's very time intensive, but at the end of the day, I think that's what builds my rapport with the students in the community, is that they see me there and they see me in aspects that I'm not just on the podium as a classroom teacher. I'm running an event. I'm taking the heat for them. I'm making sure that they're taken care of, that they're fed, that they're getting what they need.
Yeah.
And
that's, again, I'm like, just hearing you speak, I'm like, here you are doing a podcast after you've just taught and getting ready for tomorrow for your, I'm like, I mean, kudos to you again. And I think, again, people, the general audience outside of schools don't realize like the demands of time and the mental capacity. And so that's, if you have tips to share on how to compartmentalize, like that'd be good.
My biggest tip is knowing, well, it's being organized. And so, like, I have a notebook on the side of my desk that whenever I have a task to do, I just write it down. And as I go back through, I cross off tasks. It took me a few years to realize, like, I don't have to complete that list every day. Yeah. I can start at the bottom of that the next day. Like that hurdle was huge for me to get over with. And then being real of, like, what do I want to take home with me? What do I want to be doing at home? And that's always the hard one, because there are days like I wouldn't be score setting, I'd be doing stuff at home, or bless my stepson, because he gets to listen to the band music that we're playing on the drives to and from school, because we live on the west side. I mean, I teach at La Cueva. My stepson goes to Desert Ridge, and so he comes to school with me, and then we drive home together. And it's my drive to school that I'm like listening to the pieces I'm teaching on repeat, just to like get how they hear in my head. He's listening to them with me, and he's never complained. Yeah. And that's a good thing, but he's in band now himself, and I can tell he's really enjoying it. I can tell that he's vibing off of it, and I think it's good for him to see that work ethic of like, this just doesn't magically happen.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to jump into our pop quiz section of the interview. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions that we ask every guest. And if you want to answer in a sentence or a word or whatever you're comfortable with. So our first question is, where do you find inspiration, motivation, or the drive to be an educator?
Making music with students.
Cool. That's it? You don't want to elaborate? I said one quick response, so it's okay.
The best part of my day is like when you can get on stage and you have a community moment with the students, where like when we're making music together in a performance, it's not me teaching, it's not them learning, it's us working together for that shared goal. And it's hours of me building relationships with them for them to trust me. It's me showing trust in them, knowing like we're playing this really hard thing and you're going to nail it in that moment. And it's just, it's what keeps me going on this. Yeah.
That's great. Question number 2. What is a tip or trick you can share with other teachers when working with English language learners?
This one's hard because honestly in my career I haven't had many. Or the ones that I get are usually pretty fluent in English already. Because of the nature of bands. By the time they show up to me, they've already been in a band class for 3 years. And so I don't get many students who are ELLs. And I'm welcome to the challenge. It's just not something I've had to develop in my toolkit.
Would you say that, like, music though is the language, so it's a little more like, you know what I mean? That is the language. Just like I would think, like, say for like in a math class or something, like if you understand like certain aspects, like it's easier to communicate.
And
Like,
if they come in knowing how to read music, we can communicate through that, because music is a language within itself that is pretty, within the Western music theory model, is pretty consistent across the board. So like that would work.
Okay. Question number 3. What is a tip or trick you can share with other teachers when working with students that have an individualized education plan?
Same thing as I was speaking about earlier, getting to know the individual. Students work for the teachers they trust. Students work for the teachers that have their back and are on their side. I see it in my stepson, of where there's one class in particular that him and the teacher just do not vibe. He doesn't like the homework. He doesn't like how she treats him. And you know what? It's his worst grade. But then there's another teacher in another core class who actively gets to know him, actively tries to help him, and is always there and in his corner, and gets to know him for who he is, and he works his butt off for her. And I think it's the same thing with us. It's like, if as a teacher, me getting to know my student is the best tool that I have in helping them reach their goals and work with them on their IEPs, their 504s, so that like they realize, like, hey, this is a team effort.
Cool.
It's not just you.
Yeah. Question number 4. What is a behavioral management issue you faced, and how did you solve it?
This one is interesting in the band world. We do a lot of, I'm going to use the word hierarchy, because we have them for 4 years, and there's a leadership team attached to the marching band. And this leadership team is, there's a process, there's an application, there's an interview, and we select student leaders. And I wish I could say that I'm perfect at this, and I always select the right leaders. I make mistakes. And there was a particular instance last year where I think I made a mistake, and I didn't select somebody for leadership, and I wasn't as vocal. And this is one where, you know what, it strained a relationship between one of my students and myself. And it wasn't until 8, 9, 10 months after those applications were due and those interviews took place that I finally apologized to that student. I was like, you know what, I regret the choice I made, and I'm sorry. And she was they were somewhat of they weren't an issue. They were a behavioral thing. I could tell that the relationship was strained. And it wasn't until I apologized that things started to heal. And so I think for that one, like, some of our behavioral management stuff, we can't come at it from the view of it's all on the student. You know what? Sometimes we're human. Sometimes we make a mistake. Sometimes we are the ones that have to take accountability for our actions. And having the strength of myself to go, you know what, I was wrong in this moment, and I owe this student an apology, is the right choice. And so I think most of my behavioral stuff is minimal, because I'm able to look at the student and be that adult, and that can model good behavior. It's like, hey, I made a mistake on that one, that's me. Or if I'm on the podium and I make a conducting mistake, hey, band, can we run that section again? For me, I need another rep on it. And it just really builds this group learning, this group idea that, like, hey, we're in this together. And I think that helps with some of my behavioral management stuff.
That was one of the biggest lessons that I learned when I was in the classroom, is that the power of apologizing to kids when you mess up. And I think oftentimes they don't see it frequently with adults. So, and I mean, I grew up in a household and during a time that the adults were always right, and you never question, and you just go with it. And if they mess up, they're human. But again, there was never like that repair, right? And so for me, that was one of the biggest things I remember. Like, I've apologized to kids, like, hey, my bad. Like, I whatever, like I didn't get to your assignment, or I misplaced it, or whatever the case may be, or I lost it with you the other day. I really want it to be like, I want us to be able to get through this year together, like, and work together. And so just those moments, I think, are huge.
They are. And it all goes back to trust. Mm-hmm. Do the kids trust you, and do you trust them? Mm-hmm. And it is not my job as a high school teacher to expect these kids to be perfect. Yeah. It's my job to give them opportunities. And then if they work out and everything goes perfectly, fantastic. Mm-hmm. If something goes wrong, coach them through it. Be there for them. Educate them and help them learn how they could have done it differently, so that it's better the next time. Because they're teenagers. And I very much benefit from having my group of students for multiple years. Like, I get the occasional student, I have them for 1, maybe 2 years. But like, my senior class next year is 18 students. They came into me as 24 students. And out of the 6 I've lost, 4 of them are no longer at La Cueva. They've moved, or they've gone a different route to get their GED or something. And then there's the other 18 who I will have had for 4 years. Yeah. And so I know who they are, and I know what makes them tick, and they know me, and they know what to expect. And there's this camaraderie within it. And that's something that I wish other teachers had. Like, they could have that time, which I think is a very fine art centric idea, or very like sports centric idea, where we get them for years, and they come into us as this 14-year-olds who can't correct me if I'm calling them the wrong name, to 4 years later standing on a podium in front of a marching band telling them, like, hey, you guys need to like wake up and get this done. We only have this much time left.
That's awesome.
And so
I love that. All right, the next question: what has been a highlight project or activity that you are most proud of?
There's 2 moments every year. The first moment is the last marching season, or the last marching show of the year. And it's one of those, they've put in work from middle of July to late October, early November. And like this past year, it was the Zia Marching Fiesta at UNM. We had made finals. So what happens is, like, we come to school that morning, we rehearse, we do a run through, then the students are fed, they change, they freshen up, we hop on a bus, we go to UNM, we go to show warm up, we perform, go get food, go back in the audience, get awards, and if you're one of the top 10 bands, you actually get a second performance. And so you go out and you do all of this stuff, and that second performance. Come on in, my friends. You can come in. Oh, you're fine, Ellie. Is that the... Awesome. Can you just send them on my desk for me? Thank you.
I love that. See, like, this is the first time that we've had a student pop in in the classroom, because that's the reality of being at school. Like, there's always something going on, or
there's always something.
Cool.
Oh, but if I can go back. So we get the second performance, and it's usually the last performance of the year, and it's one of those moments where you can usually feel it in the warm-up lot of, like, the kids are just locked in. The kids are ready to throw down, they're ready to do their thing, and it's electric, and it's just fun to watch. And we get them to the gate, we get them on the field, and once we get them on the field, it's kind of like a press play where there's not much, I have no control. I turn things over to the students, they have complete ownership. I then get to book it up the stands at UNM. I don't remember this past year was finals performance, and I actually got to stand behind Paul Blakey and his wife, Dr. Gabriella Blakey, and it was just really cool to be there with them. But to have that moment of watching them throw down all of their work, and then seeing them afterward, like, they're all smiles, they're like, yeah, that was it. It's just one of my favorite moments every year. The other one was a similar mindset. It's like, it was our state performance. The kids just throw down and they make music, and they do something that is transcendent of the classroom. Like, we're not there as teacher and student, as I mentioned earlier. It's music for the sake of music. Yeah. And when everybody's engaged and locked in, it is just enjoyable and fun, which I think is what we all want at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Who has been a student that has made you a better teacher?
Can you give a name?
Yeah, I guess.
There's so many.
I was going to say.
It's the students who push me. Like the students who question what I do and want honest reasons. Like I had a student come in yesterday and he's like, you know what, Mr. V, I was thinking the other day, like in middle school, we did 12-bar blues in our jazz warm-ups, but we don't do that here. It's like, why don't we do that here? And I looked at him and was like, you know what? It's something I have wanted to put into place every single year, and I just never get to it. Mm-hmm. But you are correct. I should be doing that, and I'll make an effort for it next year. Mm-hmm. And the student, like, I have a good relationship with him, good kid. He's usually like, he's very adamant about what we play, and he's like, I don't like this piece, I don't like this piece, I don't like this one, can we do this instead? And there are times I'm like, yes, like, let me think about that. It's like, no, we're going to play this piece. Like, but for me to go, you're right, I need to do that, he just kind of stopped and went, okay, yeah. And I think it's every student who questions why we do what we do. And it makes me justify it. And I think with La Cueva especially, that was my biggest culture shock in coming here from Cibola or the school I was at in California, was these students want to know the why. They're smart enough that if they don't know, then it's hard to get them to buy in. But if they know why they're doing it, they buy in and then they do it. And sometimes as a teacher, like, you need to be asked, like, why are we doing this? And to be able to justify my answer and to get them to buy in for it, it works.
Yeah. I love that. Last question for Pop Quiz. What advice would you give your younger teacher self?
One of my favorite movies is, it's an older movie now, it's called Zombieland. And I remember they had like all of these rules, and it's like, I think it's rule 37, and it's enjoy the little things. Don't get so caught up in being strict that when something funny happens in the classroom and you lose classroom control for 20, 30 seconds, it's fine. It is fine to have that moment of laughter. It's fine to have that moment of realism in the classroom, because early on in my teaching career, I remember, like, with music, we start teaching before we're out of college. Like, every high school band in the city is looking for marching techs. We bring in people that, just because of the sheer number of it, like, one person can't do it all. So we usually have a couple of college kids who are helping our students get better. And I started that path as a sophomore in college, and I remember I was angry. I was yelling. I'm surprised I lasted the season, but I did. And it took me a good, 8-9 years past that to realize, I don't always need to yell. I don't always need the pin drop quiet classroom. I don't need these super strict time periods. We can work, and if something funny happens, you know what? We can lose it for a couple seconds and laugh. If something needs to be addressed, we can stop in that moment and address it. Or it's just being real with who you are, because the students know when you're fake, and the students know when something's funny. And if we can laugh at the times, are there times where it's like they say something that's inappropriate and I have to fight every ounce of my body to not laugh? Yes. But it was just learning how to relax and enjoy the little things. Because as much as I've talked about it, and as much as I enjoy the destination, it's hard to pick a single moment, because it's the journey that really matters. It's the path that we took to grow, to get there. How did you grow? What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about musically? And everybody's answer is different. And that's what this is all about.
That's awesome. Well, before I let you go, I was wondering if maybe you had an educator or somebody in your life that you feel made an impact on you and maybe got you to this point? Or anybody you want to give a shout out to educationally?
So many. I think back, my high school band director, rest in peace, was Aaron Fleming, and I know I gave him a lot of flack, and I had to apologize to him later in life, going like, you did a lot better job than I thought you did, and I apologize for how I was in those moments, and so I have to give him a shout out. I think one of my teachers, who was actually one of our colleagues when we worked together at Cibola, Loretta McMath, was just one of the polite individuals who really just modeled loving every single person who walked into her classroom. And I think she's the sole reason that my brother graduated high school. And then I think like those were two teachers when I was in school. In college, there were so many. The former director of bands at the University of New Mexico, Eric Raumbach Kendall, who's also passed away, and his wife, I think, is an elementary music educator, retiring this year in APS.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he modeled a high-level accountability from the students without, I don't know if I've ever heard that man yell. You did what you needed to do for him, and he was just always the most calm, cool, collected, professional individual there was. Or being a music major, my trumpet teachers, I studied with Jeff Piper and Dr. Marciando at UNM. And this is a situation where like you're studying one-on-one with somebody, and they truly shaped who I became as a musician. Or when I went on for my master's at the University of Utah, it was Nick Norton. And then I was a teacher, or I was a TA with Brian Sproul there, and I learned so much from him. And then some of my professional colleagues here in Albuquerque, I learned from them all the time. I think one of my favorite parts about being a high school band director is that, if you get honest, there's 13 of us in APS.
Yeah. Or 13, 14?
I forget how many high schools we have.
I think 14, I think.
And
that's, our big schools, yeah.
And then that's the big schools. And then, of course, like there's our Rio Rancho and Los Lunas Friends and but there's only so many of us, and I am flabbergasted by the work that they're doing, and like going out and watching Eldorado's band and knowing what Jordan and Steve are doing out there, and then watching Highlands band and knowing what Josephine's doing down there, and just seeing their work. And it's like they're my professional colleagues, but they're also my friends. We all went to college together. We all know each other fairly well. Like the band director at Sioux Cleveland was my section leader when I was in high school. And so that's always a fun one to like work with him and like have our bands be right next to each other, because we sat next to each other for a couple of years. And so it's interesting as I get older, it's teachers that I admire that are right here doing the thing with me. Getting to talk to Tyler North at Sandia, or talking to Sean Silva down at Oregon Mountain, or Daniel Perez over in Clovis, or Daniel Villanueva, who used to be at Volcano Vista and is now at San Angelo High School in Texas. It's just this whole community of band directors who, although we compete against each other, we're also supportive of each other.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that is, there's too many people to name. Or I think one of my biggest influences, he was a teacher of mine, but he's not a teacher of record, it's just my father, and modeling how to get to know people and how to talk to people and how to hold myself to a high standard while being respectful. And it was interesting, like thinking back since his passing, of just going all the lessons he taught me, and I didn't always see it in the moment, but it's like it resonates with me.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I appreciate you taking time to talk with me, and I owe you a thank you, because you were, I was just talking to Patrick, who's works with me in my office, and I was saying like that you were the reason I think I was able to come back to teaching, because of the interview a few years back. So
I was on the panel. I did vote for you, but like I was just on that panel, and like like even speaking of like small worlds, like Patrick Bear, him and I went to high school together. Him and I went to college together in music. It's just like that's the world that we live in, and that's what
Smallburkirky.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and
thank you.
Hope you have a good rest of your school year. We have a couple weeks left, and
I think there's 4.
But you'll be going all summer long, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I think my kids return. Like I'm back in the classroom on July 13th with percussion and color guard, so it'll be good.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee.